The final 5 minutes of a listing interview, right when you're about to go for it, you're going to discuss the list price that you think with the seller, and you wanna make sure you win and you get the right price. So many agents win a listing, and they end up as expired listing or high days on the market. I'm gonna share with you what I've coached people for across the United States of how that final 5 minutes looks where you get the right price on your listing. And so here we go. I want you to imagine that this is the sheet that I used. It was we printed this off. You could have anything at the top of your sheet, and I would say there are three things to consider when pricing a property: market conditions, property condition, and seller motivation. And I've got these questions here, and that is, well, what is the velocity in your micro market, in your macro market? Now, the micro market is simply generally there's subdivision or like a half-mile radius. Macro is sometimes the school district or something like that. And you've already presented that to them in your interview, your velocity report, which is a CMA report out of the MLS, how many actives versus how many pendings. If there's 20 actives and one pending, that's bad. And which means you have to go more with aggressive pricing. Now, if there's 20 actives and 90 pendings, you can sometimes go with premium pricing. So your price of their home is subject to the condition of the market and the condition of the property. When agents just look at closed sales comps, it is oftentimes agents take overpriced listings because of that. We want to give a reason as to why we're going to price their house a little more aggressively. I've had listings where I was at 1.5 million one time. The other realtor was at 2.3 million. I told the seller, I'll be your third agent. And I was their third agent because it kept expiring. And I've seen listings that, I said 550. The other agent was at 6.25 or something like that. And I still got the listing. And our job is to be able to disprove, in many cases, what the other agent was saying or what the seller is believing. So there's three things to consider: any house, any property, ground or whatever, when pricing. What's the market condition? Then what's the property condition? I always ask a seller this question, just out of curiosity: would you say your house is far above average, average, or below average in condition? And some people, hopefully they're really transparent and they'll go, yeah, we know we're average. By the way, this applies to the number you're about to say. You got to talk about market condition. You got to talk about their property condition, but you want them to say it in both cases. In their marketplace, when you show them the macro report, again, that's the school district or big radius, and it's 20-1, you want to ask them, is this market on fire or not so much? And you got a couple of spouses there and they both agree, something like that. Yeah, it's not really a hot market. And we're kind of average. This is what I call sales therapy. We're storytelling at the very end. This is your final 5 minutes. And then lastly, seller motivation. All right. What's the priority for moving? Is it, for profit? Is it just something in life? I got to get out of here, deadline based. All these are factors in pricing the asset. Now, what I don't have is any numbers written down. And what you're going to do is you're going to give them both a piece of paper. Now, hope I don't lose you here, because a lot of agents are like, I'm uncomfortable with this. I've done this with CEOs of companies, HR directors, and just regular homeowners. I've done it with everybody. Does this exercise. You give them both a pen. You give them a sheet of paper. Just turn over one of the records MLS records you brought with you, and say, Bob and Sally, I've got a question for you. I want you to write down, no, nobody looking. I want you to write down, what do you think this property should list for? If you had nothing to gain or lose, your friends are moving to Europe and they said, Bob and Sally, price our house right. Don't overprice it and don't dump it. I want you both to write out what you think it is and then hide your number it's fun doing this because you get the seller going, "Honey, don't look," anything like that. And I said, "Well, I'm gonna write down my number on my sheet as well. And by the way, you can have a range." And, your Zillow said you were 870, but Zillow's usually wrong. They could be right. But, are you 870 to 880? Are you 850 to 870? Go ahead and put a range down. Now, what you're gonna find out, agents, when they turn their paper over at the same time you do, they're dying to see what the other person they're looking at their spouse's page, the other one's looking at that one's page, and of course they wanna see yours. The odds are really high that their range or their number is actually on your sheet, but the question is, in what column? So here's again, you're in the final 5 minutes. And so the exercise is you talk about the 3 conditions for pricing a property and say, guys, here's your paper, here's your pen, and people have fun with it. You get one of the sellers oftentimes who says, I can't be objective. I can't write down a number. And I challenge that person to say, well, a buyer who falls in love with the property has to determine, are you right or wrong? Or do they get back in their car and drive away? So if you don't mind, could you write down a number? And sometimes somewhat reluctantly, they'll do it, but you want everybody's opinion here, because if the one who doesn't write it doesn't like what you wrote, or their spouse or loved one wrote, they're like, well, I'll agree with you guys. And I found that person to be sometimes argumentative who could not be objective. I mean, just if you have a loved one that you love and they're not objective, and there's an argument, it's hard to make sure that relationship is still has, not doesn't have a problem. So this is what we call crucial conversations. One of the most crucial conversations you're ever going to have is pricing a property where somebody already has an opinion. I remember this old lady, she was like 85 years old, and I said to her, um, through the walkthrough on her property about, did she have a kind of a number in mind based on junk mail that she gets from realtors? And because when you ask a seller that question, do you have a number in mind? Maybe based on junk mail you get from realtors about just solds and stuff like that, or what Zillow said, do you have a number in mind? And she said, no, I have nothing in mind. I have no idea what my price is. I said, well, Zillow said, 650. And I said, do they seem a little high to you or seem right on? She said, I really have no idea. Everybody knows. Every seller knows a number. If you say your number before they say theirs, they're going to judge you as not knowing their area. So let's say you write down $825,000, but you don't know what they're thinking. If they say, oh, well, thanks for coming over, this and that, we'll get back to you. You lost them. You couldn't do seller therapy on their pricing unless they admit what they're thinking. So you never want to go first. So when this old lady wouldn't tell me the number, she wanted me to go first. And she said, I won't hold it against you. Well, I learned this early in my career. She held it against me. She said, well, looks like you don't know my area. And I've been off sometimes where I was thinking of listing it for 475 and the seller was thinking 480, 485. And they were like, well, we're thinking about going higher. It doesn't look like you know our area. I'm thinking, you know, I'm 1% off. What I learned was they have to go first. You shouldn't reveal your number until they've revealed theirs. In the exercise we did on the superior inferior, is this how superior, is this how inferior? What they're going to do, even if they've never told you their price, they're actually going to share with you, the property that was 825,000. They're going to go, that one, because you hid the price. They're going to go, that one looks superior to us. You show them another property at 840,000, and it's got a better pool, more garages, a newer kitchen. They go, yeah, that one's superior. What they didn't know is they were saying these other ones that aren't selling, that are active, at 850 and 825 are superior to theirs. But that's part of the therapy. They've got to walk through the superior, inferior part of the presentation, and then you got to summarize with this thing I have here. You don't have to do this. I'm just telling you, I've coached agents that are doing 50, 75, $100 million a year, and they got shorter days in the market when they started doing this. They had quicker price reductions, and they have more properly priced listings, and they're eliminating their competitor by integrating this psychology into the presentation. And once again, it's a visual and what? Interactive. The more interactive you can make your presentation, the more they're going to remember it, and it'll be influential in how they're going to make a decision. And so I'm going to summarize this with everybody turns over their paper, and the seller has a range. One seller, he's got 850 to 875. She's got 825 to 850. And now you're going to talk it out with them and explain what your prices mean. And if you say, well, how do I explain it? Well, it's right here. You can see in the video that when we go for premium pricing, we're testing the market. They're often 2 to 3 times the amount of pendings versus actives. 10 pendings, 3 actives. And Bob and Sally, you're one of the best properties out here. And what you said was you're about average. And you have lots of time. And you said you already bought a house in Connecticut. So I'm not sure we can go with the premium pricing based on your situation, the property condition and market condition. What I was thinking about is if it's wise to go with what I'd call a standard pricing, standard price range. Number of actives and under contracts are about even. We have, let's say there were 10 actives and 8 pendings, which means they're about even. And you're safely in the average to above average, but some of the competition is better. So we're quantifying why their price is their price. And now some people, the house is a dog, is just in really bad shape and the market's not in good shape. And they want, here's a key phrase. The question is, do you want the next buyer in the marketplace? There's only 2 pendings, let's say, in the area, and there's 12 actives. Do you want the next pending, or do you want to wait a few more months because other people have been at the dance longer than you, and they may go before you because we've seen of the actives, 7 of the 8 actives have all dropped their price. 7 of the 8 have already dropped their price. And so everybody thought they were coming to market correctly, but 7 of the 8 dropped their price. We look at the pendings, everybody dropped their price. We looked at the expireds, everybody dropped their price 3 or 4 times. So again, this is the stuff that wins listings if you see this stuff in your data. So the language is right here. And the layout, so I would say, you know, the goal I was looking for here was to list a property probably about $825,000. And now people's eyes are completely focused on this page. And I keep the velocity reports pretty handy to remind them, let's say your macro market, large radius, has, 15 for sale and 1 pending. They got to keep seeing that. It's part of how neuroscience works, how people see documents that are relevant, that are making an impact on how they're thinking. So they got to keep reinforcing that by showing them this stuff. And then you close with, Bob and Sally, I've got a question for you. If you're comfortable with the program I presented to you, and we have rapport, and you like my pricing strategy, part of my job is to ask for the job. May I be your realtor? And just shut up and listen to them. Sometimes they'll look at each other and go, honey, what do you think? You're most likely going to get it if they do one of those. Honey, what do you think? I don't know, honey. It's up to you, that kind of thing. All right. And my recommendation, guys, is you get to the dance as quick as you can. All right, Brian, let's go for it. If they say they're by owner or expired, they want to wait another 2 weeks or so, go back to your velocity report where it's got 10 active and 1 pending and say, I'd get to the dance as fast as you can before the property values continue to what? Decline. Because in a 10-to-1, is it a DNA? Is it depreciating, neutral, or appreciating market? Well, 10-to-1, it's depreciating. I get to the dance as fast as I could. Okay, Brian, let's go for it. But let's say it's 10 active and 20 pending. It's on fire. I would say this, guys, if you want to stay off the market, expired or FISBO, whatever, if you want to stay off the market for a little while, the market is going to, they're gobbling up inventory. What I'd recommend doing is before there's a shift, because if the market's swift like this, you want to get into a swift marketplace. My encouragement is to do what? I'd get to the dance as fast as I could. So if you've done all these little vignettes, you're going to find that you're moving people to the ready zone. And that was the mission of the listing interview, was not to show them your marketing genius, it's to take people that are sometimes not ready at all, reluctant, to awareness that maybe they should be doing something now. That's stage 2. Stage 3 is often conditional. When somebody says, give us 2 weeks, they're yes, but. And generally, if you get a yes, but, if you have anticipated that, yes, but give us a week. If you anticipate that, and you should before you go on your listing interview, if they give me a yes, but, what am I going to say? Okay, fine. Or are you going to give them some incentive to move forward, which I just covered? And so, again, if you practice this final 5 minutes 25 times, what comes naturally to you, you're going to be successful on that listing interview. Those people who say, I practiced it, honestly, Brian, twice, I'm going to bet against you versus somebody who's doing it this way. Again, we've got way too many producers across the United States who are following every vignette that we have in here, and they're winning listings, getting referrals. And by the way, this is part of your loan officer presentation. If you aren't already getting 2 to 5 listings per year per LO that you're missing the boat. There's so much opportunity, not necessarily in your sphere of influence with your friends and family, but LOs have a huge portfolio of orphan buyers, orphan sellers, and this isn't just for buy owners and expireds. LOs are all around us, and they have all these transactions, and they're not. Here's my final question for you: are you getting 2 to 5 listings per year from your favorite loan officer? Don't end this video and just call them. You have to demonstrate your buyer presentation and your listing presentation to get their opinion on what they think of it. And they'll do this because they want your what? They want your loyalty. They want your business to become a referral partner. But we also want to let them know we're meeting with a lot of buyers. What do you think of my buyer presentation? And you want to incorporate them into your buyer presentation. And in the listing presentation, when the seller is moving, I want to be able to say my favorite LO is this person. And so these LOs will take that meeting, and they're human beings. They have houses that they own. They're going to love this presentation, as well as FISBOs were, expirers will. So I'm hoping, reach out to me if you're not already part of the program, Brian, B-R-Y-A-N, at theagentwealthproject.com. Or I tell you what, I'll give you my cell phone, 314-713-2785. Let's have a conversation. Let me see if I can equip you. Let's just brainstorm. Thanks for watching.